Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Natty News, the nattiest news show in the world. My name is Aaron the Nanny, and I'm joined once again with my co-host Pat Natty. Woo! Pat, how are you doing?
And I'm doing great. It is great to be back on video and seeing your face when you podcast. It's actually been so long. We worked through some technical issues, so super glad.
Yeah, for long-time listeners, they probably remember the video era of Natty News, as well as they probably remember the consistent upload days of Natty News. Two things we hope to bring back. Um, while we've been a little inconsistent with both our video as well as our regular audio uploads, we really do appreciate it. And I agree, Pat. I think there's something to say about actually seeing each other while we do it. Um, you know, I know a lot of people when they listen to any podcast, even when there is video, they just keep it off and they just like listen to it regardless of what's on screen. But I feel like there's something cozy about having the video up sometimes. Like sometimes I like seeing the people just talk and express, and it makes it feel more real. Especially nowadays, have you seen those AI recordings? Like when you can like create an AI to just generate someone's voice for someone?
Oh yeah, I've seen one of who was on? It was like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, what's and that psychologist dude whose name I can't remember, but I don't think
Jordan
they were like
Peterson.
all in a room. Yeah, I was like yeah, and Peterson, they were just all in a room talking about something stupid. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I love those videos. I think one of them I saw was like Joe Rogan and Peterson talk about Bionicles, and I cried laughing. It was the funniest thing I've ever heard. So who knows? Maybe we can do an AI version of Natty News where we just. I feel like there's enough recording of our audio. Maybe we can create one, but uh, that might be a scary future when AI Anwar and AI Pat take over.
Yeah, I could probably do our mannerisms too, and that would just be really creepy.
Oh, that's a real life Black Mirror episode coming up. But yeah, it's been a while, and I also think astute Natty News listeners and viewers are probably noticing different backgrounds. Both you and I are in two different locations. So, Pat, how about you kick off? Where are you calling from?
Man, this is just gonna be a personal news show. I am phoning in today from Victoria. I'm here on another of my clinical rotations, living right by the water, so I really love where I live. Today I was able to go out for a walk, which, if you guys know me, I rarely ever go on walks and enjoyed it. So it's been really good, and my life just consists of working at a neurological clinic called Neuromotion, which I'm loving it because it's just working with patients who like really need the help with mobility. And then I go to the gym. Shout out to Speed Mechanics, best gym in the world. And then I go home and I cook dinner. I'm working on my cooking, so I can't complain. Days are good. How about you?
Oh man, I'm loving it, Pat. Now you're living the life. I am doing good. So, as longtime listeners know, I've recently moved back to Vancouver. I just moved into my new apartment in Kitsilano, and it is lovely. Absolutely most beautiful place in the world. I feel so lucky that we live in such an amazing city. Well, you're in Victoria, but when you're back in Richmond, Vancouver, I mean, really is one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I think Kitsilano is the best part of the entire city. A little biased, but no, really enjoying it. Shout out to Kitsilano Community Center, the best community center in the world. um, Before we were recording, I was just telling Pat about how the community center has this phenomenal sauna, and I've been doing a lot of sauning, so I'm a big fan of it. Really enjoy a nice, clean sauna. And I think I've been listening to a little too much Andrew Huberman, so I'm becoming big into sauning now.
Man, the Huberman's had some influences on me too. Like some of the things I've been doing is that caffeine, the delayed caffeine, not having it for about 90 minutes to 2 hours before waking up. And I think it's like been long enough now. I think it's been almost a month I've done it that it's kind of becoming a concrete change. Like I don't crave drinking my coffee or uh, my caffeine supplements. first thing in the morning. Like I wait hour and a half or 2 hours, and it's like a normal thing I do now. So here's hoping I fixed my dopamine receptors or whatever science it's about.
Oh man, speaking of actually experiments, I don't think I told you this, Pat, but a few weeks ago, I decided to get back on creatine. I haven't tried creatine in years, and I was like, you know what? Let me give another shot at it. And I was wrong. I always thought creatine didn't do much for me, but this time around, I did feel the bigger energy burst. I really do feel like the improvement in my endurance, as well as this um regular performance in the gym. And I think I was wondering why, and I think maybe this time I actually drank more water to compensate. I feel like whenever I tried creatine, I never increased the amount of water I was drinking, but this time I was like, okay, I probably should drink more water to see the full effect of it. And I just felt a better response from it. I don't know if that's just fully anecdotal, but now I'm a believer of creatine. I don't know if that lets me be natty anymore. Do we count creatine as a performance enhancing drug?
Dude, unfortunately, you are no longer natty, so your gains don't count anymore. But no, I'm just joking. That's great though, and to throw in the bit of like reasoning why it's important to drink more water, the main way that creatine works is it helps draw in extra intracellular water into the muscle, which is a signal to produce energy and generate force and put on muscle and all those great things. So if you take the creatine, you don't drink extra water, then your body's just sucking it out of places that probably need the water. So you're getting some kind of, you're not going to get the full benefits.
Yeah, oh, I mean, it seems so obvious when you say it, but I think maybe 5 years ago I didn't really think about it that way and didn't really see the same benefits. But no, now I'm on the creatine train, so excited to see what gains will come from that. But um, kind of jumping into the major topic now. Today, we have actually a very exciting topic and something we've always hinted at, but we haven't really gone full in depth with. And it's about what exercises can best improve you both for muscle gain and flexibility. As listeners know, Pat, myself, and some other friends are doing a bit of a flexibility February. And as you know, one of the best ways to improve your flexibility is by doing it through exercise, but which exercise will let you make the most muscle as well as improve your mobility in the process.
Yeah, so yeah, the premise of this is going with the assumption that your goal is kind of in between where you want to get stronger and you want to get flexible, and like most of us you have limited time. So we're going to pick just a couple exercises for your lower body, just a couple for your upper body, maybe some for your trunk rotation, and they're gonna kind of relate to what we talked about last time. They should help improve those flexibility measures such as our middle split, our toe touch, our knee to wall ankle exercise, and our shoulder touching upper body flexibility.
I mean, I'm going to jump the gun a bit, and I'm just going to say doing a little stretch before my overhead press has been one of the biggest game changers of my entire life. So, I mean, I haven't looked at our notes yet, Pat, but I already know overhead press is going to be in there, isn't it?
Overhead press is in there. It was actually debated. It wasn't as easy as I thought, but I definitely put it in.
Yeah, because like I can speak anecdotally. I think when you first talked about the importance of like overhead press for like upper body mobility and like solidifying that mobility after stretching, that's been like the biggest game changer to my like overall shoulder health. So I'm excited to hear these other ones. I feel like a lot of them are gonna be very useful. But yeah, how would you want to kick this off?
Yeah, so I think we can split this in the next bit into like lower body. We'll talk about upper body, like arms and shoulders, and then we'll talk a little bit about spine mobility, and that'll be a nice structure. But starting with the lower body, if we think about it, so we want to start by thinking about what are some of the things that people are limited in. And typically, people are limited either in hip flexion, like for example, how high you can raise your knee or how deep you can squat. They're limited in hip extension, how much you can stick your leg back, or how much you can hip hinge or like touch your toes. and they're also limited in how much they can rotate their hip. Which is important to be able to not only like go up the stairs and things, but also to again squat deep or to do jujitsu if you're interested in that. So I'll give one exercise for each. So the first exercise, which I think is really good at improving your hip extension as well as improving your ability to bend your knee or flex your knee, is the Bulgarian split squat. So this is a tried and true exercise, and for those of you who don't know it, you put your back foot on a bench or on some kind of object. You stick your other leg straight out like a split squat, and you squat straight down until your knee touches the ground. And it's important for the purpose of what we're doing is, if you got your left foot on the bench, you got to really squeeze your butt cheek on that side, which maximize the hip extension. And if you're doing it correctly, you're going to feel the front of your hip stretch so much if you're doing that Bulgarian split squat correctly. And I think, if you have limitations there, you can do that for a set of 10 reps with a decently hard weight. And then you can just sit there at the bottom, hopefully with a knee pad, and just stretch for 1 minute, right? And that's a stretch a lot of us do. Some of us call it a couch stretch, but that's an amazing stretch for your hip flexors, for your quads, and for those of you with painful knees, a lot of it has been shown to be helpful.
Man, and the Bulgarian split squat, I know they're so great, but I feel like they're always so painful to do. Not like as in pain, as in a bad pain, but it's like, you really feel the burn in your legs when you do them. And I often, when I do single leg work, I often do lunges, but I feel like Bulgarian split squats are kind of like an improved lunge. I feel like you get more out of it than a regular lunge. And I need to kick them off more often. Would you kind of agree with that about them being maybe more like how do you compare like a Bulgarian split squat to a lunge? Which one would you say is more beneficial?
Yeah, I mean, so there's one limitation of Bulgarian split squat, which is you'll probably do less weight. Now, if your sport or your goals require you to be as strong as possible, there's some kind of an argument that we can do lunges more often because lunges will allow you to do a greater weight. But what Bulgarian split squat is kind of we think about like, the different pillars of fitness. Is it really is kind of a really good perfect medium of strength and flexibility. Whenever you do it, you will kind of work and develop both qualities. Whereas when you do a lunge, assuming you're of average flexibility, you're probably only working on the strength quality.
Yeah, because like most people can do a pretty decent lunge even without any like mobility or anything. But getting into a deep Bulgarian split squat, you actually really do feel a stretch. It is actually kind of astounding what type of position it puts you in. Like it really is something.
Yeah, but I think everyone, even if it's not your main goal, then something I do sometimes is use it as a warm up, right? Like first thing I do before I do front squats or back squats is I'll do like 2 sets of 8 of just Bulgarian split squats, even body weight, right? Really working on extending the hip, getting my knees used to being fully bent because in our daily lives we don't do much of that. And then holding the last one, maybe stretching for 30 to 45 seconds to even maximize the benefit. And it's so time efficient. It takes like 5 minutes to do 2 sets.
Oh, well, that's phenomenal. Okay, no, so first one on the list, the Bulgarian split squat. What's up next?
The next one I thought about, this was a hard one now. Now we're thinking about the opposite, which is improving our hip flexion or hip hinging sort of movement. And I settled between two options. The first of which is your Romanian deadlift, which I think for the purposes of getting one leg at a time would be a staggered Romanian deadlift where you have 1 foot back, or the body weight hamstring curl, which we've mentioned on the show before. So where shall we start?
Ooh, let's go with the Romanian deadlift because that's what I was thinking. Like when you brought it up, I was like, okay, Romanian deadlift, easy one for like hamstring mobility and all that. But let's start with the obvious one, and we can move in more into the body weight hamstring curl.
Yeah. So Romanian deadlifts. So let's think about the person who would most benefit from Romanian deadlifts is, let's say you're very inflexible and you're trying to touch your toes. Uh, or you're in a sport where you need to be able to bend your hips really far, so that even includes a sport like weightlifting where you got to squat really deep, right? A Romanian deadlift is really good because when you do it, you are hinging through the hips, and if you think about that angle, you're improving kind of your hip flexion, and it's through an eccentric load, meaning that there's the weight, let's say it's 200 pounds of weight that's helping you to stretch deeper into it. So it's going to lengthen your hamstrings, it's going to lengthen your glutes, right? It's going to help lengthen your calves also with that weight. And because it's a weighted exercise going up and down, you're also going to develop the strength. So again, compared to something like a regular deadlift, where you pick the weight up from the floor but you bend your knees more, the Romanian deadlift gives you more of that strength and flexibility benefit all in one.
Yeah, and I feel like with a Romanian deadlift, a lot of times, like you really do feel the stretch, especially in the first few sets. And it's such an easy way to keep on improving because you can start off with your knees maybe a little bent, but then as you get more and more flexible, you can straighten out your knees more and more. So you can really see that progression and really adjust it live to really get the maximum stretch. Now, Romanian, honestly, I personally prefer Romanian deadlifts to regular deadlifts. I feel like they just feel nicer, but obviously you can't use as much weight, and it's not like anyone's gonna flex about how much they Romanian deadlift.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a showy type exercise, but it's kind of, for people, I think especially for like your average person who's in the gym to just get stronger and flexible, because it's important to have both those goals. Uh, or someone like us where we kind of have, we want to get really, really strong, but also we're kind of stiff. Like it's such a good exercise to throw in as like a second or third exercise in a workout. And then I would recommend not trying to max out the weight on it, but rather thinking about a load where you can actually slowly stretch into it and focus on the quality of it rather than going as heavy as possible.
Oh, love it. Okay, so that one makes sense to me. But now let's hear about the bodyweight hamstring curl. Because from when you tell it, like, because what I think is like both like at the top position and bottom position, I never imagined there's going to be a stretch there. Like, I can lie down fine and I can sit up on my knees fine. Like, where is the stretch in that?
Yeah, this one is less of a, you're definitely getting less of a stretching benefit, but I wanted to throw it in because what this one works on is something that's weak for a lot of people, which is a loaded knee flexion. So the ability to fully bend your knees and also be stronger in that position. And also loaded hip flexion, akin to like doing a high knee, right? Because a lot of us are not very strong with both those movements. For example, for a lot of us, our knee extension is a lot stronger than our knee flexion or like leg curls. And for a lot of us, we can deadlift a lot, but our hip flexors are not that strong, right? And those weaknesses can often create some imbalances, create some pain and injury. And when you do a bodyweight hamstring curl, you put your feet on two sliders, and to pull towards you, you're doing knee flexion, you're bending your knee, but you're also doing hip flexion because you're raising up. And those two movements are often neglected by your average gym goer. So if you can get them stronger, for example, for a runner, it's those will help you have better hamstrings, better hip flexors, which will allow you to have a better swing when you're running through.
Okay, that does make a lot of sense. And I've seen them so much more. Like I remember when we started lifting, I've never seen someone do that. But now at the gym, you'd see a few people do it nowadays. So I guess it really seems to be very valuable for athletes and people who want to have like overall knee health.
Yeah, yeah. They're just, because I think because of the popularity of deadlifts and squats, they're great leg exercises, but they don't really make you bend your knee against resistance, and they don't really make you flex your hip against resistance. So I think it really supplements what's missing from your average gym program.
Love it. Okay. Fantastic. So we've hit the back of the leg now. What's up next?
So I think, that's a pretty good leg workout. You do 3 sets of 10 of those. probably can be on your day if you don't have much time. But if you had another couple minutes, I would also do a lateral lunge, a side lunge, right, where you have your feet really wide, you step to the side, bending one knee, keeping the other knee straight, because that works the other muscles that we haven't talked about yet, which is your adductors and abductors, the muscles in the inside and outside your knee, and also you've got your hips rotating. The leg that's straight will be internally rotated, and the leg that's bending is going to be externally rotated. So, getting better hip rotation is great for a lot of things. It can often relieve knee pain. If you have tight hips, your knees take more pressure. It can help relieve back discomfort because, again, if your hips are tight, then your lower back might start moving more in order to compensate for movement. So it's got a lot of benefits, and I think more of us need to stop working in that up and down range and work side to side. And I'm talking to myself first because I skip my lateral lunges a lot.
So the lateral lunge is one I hear a lot, but I think for me there's a lot of questions going into it. So one of the things with the lateral lunge that I see people do sometimes is when they go down, they sometimes to increase the range of motion go on their toes to get down lower. Is that okay, or should you still keep a flat foot even if you can't go as deep?
I think going your toes is okay because that's just overcoming the ankle limitation in order to achieve more hip ability. I think if the goal is hip mobility, then I think that's fine. But, an easier way because it's hard to balance like that is just like you would squat with some plates under. You can put a plate under your heel and do your lateral lunge like that, and then you can focus on your hips and not have to worry about your ankle as much too.
And then the next thing too is with like progression of weight. So when you do a lateral lunge, do you do it with a dumbbell? Do you do it with a barbell? Do you kind of hold it like up, like maybe a goblet squat? Like how would you maybe include weight into this? If like you can do like, because like most people can probably do like a lot of like lateral lunges, like maybe 20 a side, pretty easy. So if they wanted to add weight to it, what would be kind of the mechanism to do that?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the barbell because I think it's really hard to balance. Like if you're flexible to get all the way down. So I'm a fan of using a dumbbell, like goblet style, or just holding a dumbbell down by your side. And so two ways to progress, either by making the dumbbell heavier, or you can do it, you can grab that slider again that you use for hamstring curls. And so rather than just stepping your foot back together when you're done the lateral lunge, you're going to slide that foot back in. And that's going to work your groin so hard, right? We know groin strains are it's a pretty like bad thing to get in all sports, and it happens often, and groin strains take such a long time to heal. So if there's a way to work your groin and get that stronger and flexible and prevent injury, then that's a great exercise. So lateral lunge with a slide is a really good progression.
That's something I need to incorporate because I actually one I have a very inflexible groin. That's one, and then two is I have been prone to the injury, so I need to start doing that slider. Okay, that's something I'm going to take a note from.
Dude, it's like the hardest thing ever. I might do some after today. Slider lateral lunge is like killer. Like I feel like I'm gonna pull my groin immediately.
Oh no. Okay, I'm gonna have to check this out. I'm gonna have to watch some YouTube videos at the end of this. Oh, it does sound hard though.
Yeah, but and I think that covers the lower body. 3 exercises. So Bulgarian split squat, Romanian deadlift, and we don't have a European name for this one, but lateral lunge.
Oh man, yeah. The Europeans, they know their way around lifting weights. They really do.
Yeah.
I know. When are we gonna come up with like the Canadian bench press, the more optimal way of doing it? Ah.
There are no Canadian exercises.
Yeah, you would think we would have something with like overhead press, like the Canadian log press or something, but no, not even that.
Ooh. The Canadian style log press. I don't know. I could feel that becoming a thing one day.
Yeah, maybe we can invent it. But okay, so we got the lower body done. You were mentioning 3 sets of 10. And those actually cover a lot of major muscle groups too. Like that is a pretty solid leg workout right there. Um, Now moving up to upper body, what were we doing for upper body?
So the upper body, the first one is something that's we're going to think about what are people limited in. And I think most commonly, people are limited in shoulder, we call it shoulder flexion, getting your freaking arms over your head, nice and straight elbows. And then the second most common limitation, I think, is shoulder external rotation, which is the ability to rotate your arm out and get to that 90-degree angle and beyond. And also, when that's limited, that affects the overhead too. So, we're going to focus on exercise to improve those two things. So, number one is the dumbbell or kettlebell bench pullover. So, Anwar, have you done this exercise before?
I have done it.
Yeah. Have you? How do you like this exercise? How heavy have you been able to go on it?
I go actually very light. I think I do like 25 or 30 pounds. And I think one of the things you don't really realize is like being able to get that stretch while keeping your shoulders down is shockingly tough. Like while I'm kind of at the bottom position, my shoulders want to shrug up so bad, and like keeping them down while feeling that stretch is like it's tough. And it's actually pretty surprising of how tired you get like with just like 25, 30 pounds. Like after like 10 reps, like I'm pretty tired. Like my like lats and back are just like feeling the burn really are.
Yeah, that's I wanted to get that perspective because for me it's like, yeah, I take 25 pounds, maybe 30 pounds, and I usually do it on a bench with my feet off the ground because that forces my back to stay flat. You've probably done that, and it's so hard, and you feel it like as soon as you start going back, try not to let the weight just crash the ground, take out your shoulders. It feels so heavy if you keep your elbows straight, and that's all probably about levers, but it's so beneficial because it's giving you a eccentric or lowering stretch to your lats, to your triceps, to your serratus muscles near your ribs. And, try it out. Do 10 times, 10 reps. Hold the last one for 10 seconds the next time you're at the gym, and you'll feel you're able to put your arms overhead. It feels a lot better.
Yeah, it is actually pretty shocking about how much better your shoulders feel with it. But I also feel like it's one of those things where you really need to focus because I feel like if you don't really, keep attention to it, I feel like I could just like snap my shoulder and it's just gonna fall underneath. Like it's one of those things where I feel like I need to be very focused when I do the exercise.
100%. I mean, it's kind of like it's in some way almost like a Romanian deadlift, like for your upper body, right? You're trying to stop this weight that's lowering towards the floor from just crashing to the floor, right? And I think people don't take those little exercises for the upper body as seriously. Like Romanian deadlift, you get to do lots of weight, it's fun, so people pay good attention. But with the pullover, you see people doing it very quickly and arching their back. But if you keep your back flat and go slowly, it's super beneficial and your lats will be on fire.
I think with the pullover, going slowly is kind of key because I think a lot of people, when they just rep it out, they don't get that full range of motion, and then it becomes pretty easy. Like if you even just like go like a inch higher, you don't feel that same stress, you don't feel that same stretch, and you could probably do a lot more weight. But in kind of just lowering it a little more and taking that control just completely changes it. It really is something.
It's an amazing exercise.
Yeah, and for me too, I have a very my upper body is very inflexible, and so like I often need to really like focus on it as well as like really take my time to like make sure you get in that right position because I often feel like when I get too tight, I start shrugging my shoulders up, I start trying to cheat in ways, so I really need to focus on keeping that proper form throughout.
100%. You got it.
All right, sweet. So no, that's a awesome one. Highly recommended, especially for people like me who sit around all day and just round their backs. That's a good one to kind of open up your chest. Awesome. Okay, what's the next one up there?
All right. The next one is one you probably haven't tried too much before, and I don't have a fancy name for it. So I would call it a supine elbow elevated external rotation. Let me describe what we're gonna do. So imagine yourself. You're on the ground in the gym. You're laying on your back. You're gonna put a yoga block underneath your humerus or your arm bone, so your lower arm is free to move. Okay, and then you're gonna just simply external rotate your arms with a light weight, or think about basically uh, trying to touch the floor by rotating your arm with your hand. Okay, so what that does, if you do that for repetitions, is you are creating external rotation of your arm, right? But what's helping you? The weight that's on your hand is helping to increase that stretch on it, which will allow you extra range. All the while, what's controlling the weight from crashing to the ground is you're using the rotator cuff muscle at the front. That's your subscapularis, your pec minor. Those are tight muscles. Those are muscles that also get injured or impinged a lot in your overhead athletes. So you're learning to get out of that shoulder forward, shoulder rotated shrug position that we all tend to be in as modern workers. And we're learning to get open, shoulders back, elbows open, shoulders rotated open with a bit of a weight. And I find for this one, 5, 10 pounds, again, same protocol, going slow to the ground, 10 reps, holding the last rep, and do that for a set or two. And not only does your rotation get better, but your overhead should start feeling better right after that.
Now, that's really interesting. Now, I actually have a question about this one is would you maybe even recommend this as like maybe an exercise you do before you might do like heavy overhead presses? Like, oh, like is this something you could see maybe someone does at the beginning, kind of as like, even as like a warm up exercise, like you were
Yeah.
mentioning before with the Bulgarian split squat, where you might start off with this and then move into maybe some heavy overhead pressing or maybe any other type of heavier upper body lift.
Yeah, and like both these lifts, like even the pullover, like that's a great superset that I use sometimes to open up my shoulders. I go dumbbell pullover followed by this kind of laying on your back open shoulder rotation because they work both of the limiters of go overhead. So yeah, doing that for warm up, obviously as warm up, don't push it as hard, go a little bit lighter, but it's super effective.
Love it, love it. And one of the key things about that is lying on the back because like you can't really do the standing since the dumbbell, the force of gravity needs to push it down. So it's one of those things you really need to lie down. And I think we always call like I think we've talked about this before about like, when you just stand there and do a rotated cuff like this, it doesn't really like get your rotated cuff warmed or does anything. So it's important to be in the right plane whenever you do any of these exercises.
Yeah, and the thing with the shoulder is when we get tight, we're really smart at compensating. We can shrug the shoulder, we turn the torso to create an illusion of better movement. So going on your back, taking all the variables out of the place, and then just working on pure rotation, I think is beneficial for a lot of people.
Got it. Okay, that's gonna be another one I throw into the regiment. I love it. Okay, is there any other upper body we're missing?
I think for upper body, those ones I would say like as like a strength and flexibility balance are probably some of the best ones. I would say that, other than that, a push up is actually really, really beneficial to cover your bases, other than that, because the first two exercises have not worked the front of the torso as much. And the good thing with a push up compared to a bench press is first of all, you get in that full kind of horizontally abducted position where your arms are all the way back, and that creates a huge stretch in your front, as we all know. But the other bit that's really good is it creates shoulder protraction or scapular protraction, where we always learn about pinning our shoulders down and back, but also a lot of us gets tight and they're not able to reach their shoulder blade forward. And that's important because that aspect is also necessary to getting your arm over your head, right? And one of the exercise that people often get prescribed in an unstable shoulder is these like they call it scapular punches, and that works the serratus muscle. But when you do a good push up, you're automatically already getting that. That's why it's important to straighten out your arms and push through your shoulder blades when you do your push ups, because there's that additional benefit that you don't get if you just partial rep it and just kind of half extend your arms.
Yeah, I've been guilty of that half extension. You're right about getting that full range and really rotating your shoulder forward. Isn't something I always think about when I do my push-ups. Um, and I guess though one of the things though is like with all these exercises though, you would say that these aren't as like with the lower body ones, you could do heavy Bulgarian split squat, and that's like probably as good as doing a squat. But like
Yeah.
doing these exercises almost going to be the same as maybe doing like a heavy bench press or a heavy overhead press. So all of these should be done, but you still kind of need to do one of like the bigger movements. Would you say?
I definitely agree. Like a dumbbell pullover will not replace like a pull up in a row. I think those are still necessary. I think the difference in the upper body is that your upper body is at the top of your body. It's hard to get a eccentric based exercise that's like super heavy and super loaded onto it. So I would supplement a overhead press. I would supplement pull ups, and honestly, I think I didn't think of this right now because I hate dips. But if you can do dips, dips are probably the best strength slash flexibility exercise for the upper body because you get that shoulder protraction, you get that deep arm bend, right? You're getting your shoulders in good rotation, and you're definitely working on strength because the bottom of the dip is the hardest thing ever.
I'm glad you brought it up because for our own little competition, I've been using dips to kind of measure my upper body flexibility. Well, it's exactly what you're mentioning is like at the end of my workout, I would just go do some dips and at the bottom position, see how I feel. And one of the things with dips is it's really hard to keep your chest up when you go deep. It's so easy for you just to roll over and like shrug your shoulders and all that, but actually having your chest up in a deep dip, I think is like peak flexibility. Like I can't do it yet, but it's definitely a goal.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really good like eccentric loading for like the front, all the front of your torso. So there's probably injury prevention purposes if it's not a painful exercise. And I've changed my mind on the dip over the years. I still can't really do them right, but I agree that they're a great exercise.
Pat, like I know in Nine News you always talk about like how weird your body is because you're so explosive and so strong, but in like certain positions, like for like Pat is obviously a national level weightlifter, unbelievably strong, but this man cannot dip. I don't get it.
Like I can't. Like I can do. I think I might be able to do like three. Like if we're talking full range of motion, I can do 3 to 5, and that's it. And I'm done, and it hurts.
Yeah, it just it blows my mind. I don't get it, but you know what? It really is. Everyone's different, and I think one of the things that I like about your upper body ones are these are things like anyone can do. Like you don't have to use much weight. It doesn't need much equipment. Actually, all these exercises don't really require much equipment or any special setups to do, and they're all pretty easy to get like warmed up and set up for. So it is one of the things that it's important to throw into your workouts, and I'm super guilty of this too. Like everyone wants to do the big deadlifts and squats and benches, but sometimes these smaller accessory lifts are really key. And I think that's something I'm trying to focus more on this year is prioritizing, your accessory lifts as much as your major ones.
100%. Yeah, and like what was this like 6 exercises that you can do? Like they're great as a warm up. They don't take that long, and then it speaks to it. Like I don't do them all the time either in the gym, and like I really should, right? Because they have a lot of benefits.
Yeah, well, maybe this will be our year to really take this on. Well, I really appreciate this, Pat. I mean, I'm super excited to, start throwing some of these in, especially the one, I forget what you called it, but the one where you lie down with that, like, that one is something new. I'm going to throw that in and see how that feels. Seems like it's going to be a killer, but really appreciate the knowledge and can't wait to hear more from you in the future. Any last notes just for our listeners?
For those of you who have listened to the end and forgot all the exercises, your summary is lower body, 3 exercises. Bulgarian split squat, back foot on the bench. You got Romanian deadlift, slow and going as low as you can. You got lateral lunge with a slider if you're crazy, and then upper body. You got dumbbell pullover, legs up to keep your back flat to open your overhead. You've got the, what do we even call it? We'll just call it like uh, laying on your back shoulder openers. I really don't have a good name for it. I promise the exercise is better than it sounds. and then push-ups or dips, whichever one's better for you. But it's super important to get your shoulder blade to practice moving and rotating forward and backwards. And I think if you get all those, you do them consistently, like you'll be a more mobile person and you'll be strong through those ranges, so that when your body gets put there, it's ready. It's not going to get hurt as often.
Well, this has definitely been another informative Natty News episode. Thank you so much for listening. Can't wait to hear how this all improves your guys' mobilities and muscle gains. With that being said, Natty News out.
Natty News out.